The morning sun cast long shadows across the United Earth Command building in Geneva. Commander Jiwoo Kim stood at the window of the war room, watching the peaceful city below. She had no idea this would be the last normal day Earth would ever see. The alarms began at exactly 11:47 a.m. Red lights flashed throughout the building as technicians ran to their stations. Admiral Suman Lee burst through the doors, her face pale with shock. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, pointing to the massive screen at the front of the room. The image showed space near Neptune. But where empty darkness should have been, there was now something impossible. A ship hung in the void so large it dwarfed the planet itself. Its dark metal surface stretched for thousands of kilometers, dotted with lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. "How big is that thing?" Jiwoo asked, her voice steady despite the fear growing in her chest. "Our computers say it's about the size of Earth's moon," replied Dr. Hun Park, the head scientist. His hands shook as he read the data. "But that's impossible. No one can build something that large." "Apparently someone can," Admiral Lee said grimly. As they watched, smaller ships began emerging from the massive vessel. Each one was still huge by human standards, easily the size of a city. Within hours, over 1,000 alien ships filled the outer solar system. Then the message came. The alien voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded like gravel scraping against stone. Every screen on Earth displayed the same image, a tall, reptilian creature with golden eyes and scales that shifted color in the light. "People of Earth," the alien said, "I am High Commander Vorthak of the Galactic Dominion Alliance. For 200 of your years, we have watched your species spread across the stars like a disease. You have claimed 47 star systems without permission. You have ignored the natural order of the galaxy." Jiwoo felt her hands clench into fists. "The natural order? Who decided that?" The alien continued. "The Dominion has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. 12 great species unite under our banner, bringing peace and stability to countless worlds. We offer you the same choice we have offered all primitive species. Submit to our rule and live in peace as our servants. Your scientists, your soldiers, your workers will serve the greater good of the galaxy." The image changed, showing beautiful alien cities with glass spires reaching toward purple skies. Creatures of different species worked together in harmony, all under the watchful eyes of reptilian overseers. "You have 30 of your days to decide," Vorthak said. "Surrender your weapons, open your worlds to our forces, and accept your place in our empire. Refuse, and your species will be removed from the galaxy forever. We have done this before. We will do it again if necessary." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. Ambassador Do-hyun Choi was the first to speak. "We have to consider their offer seriously. Look at that fleet. We've never seen technology like this. If we fight them, humanity will be extinct within days." "You want us to become slaves?" Jiwoo snapped. "I want us to survive," Choi replied. "Maybe being servants is better than being dead." Dr. Park pulled up holographic displays showing Earth's military forces. "We have 3,000 ships in our entire fleet. They brought that many just as an escort. Our most advanced weapons are nuclear missiles. Their smallest ship probably has shields that could stop anything we throw at them." General Taehyung Shin stepped forward. He was old, but his eyes still burned with fire. "Numbers aren't everything. We fought impossible odds before." "Not like this," Admiral Lee said quietly. "This isn't just one enemy. It's 12 different species, all more advanced than us. They've conquered the entire galaxy." Jiwoo studied the data streaming across the screens. Something bothered her about the alien message, but she couldn't place what it was. "Why give us 30 days? She asked suddenly. Everyone looked at her. "What do you mean?" Dr. Park asked. "They have overwhelming force. They could destroy us right now if they wanted to. So why the ultimatum? Why not just attack?" Ambassador Choi shrugged. Maybe they're being merciful, but Jiwoo wasn't convinced. She had spent 20 years studying military strategy, and nothing about this felt right. An enemy with absolute superiority didn't negotiate. They simply took what they wanted. Over the next week, Earth's governments argued endlessly. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others called for a fight to the death. The alien fleet waited patiently at the edge of the solar system, making no aggressive moves. Jiwoo spent every waking hour analyzing the alien transmission. She watched it dozens of times, studying every word, every gesture, every pause. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. "They're afraid," she announced during a meeting with Earth's top leaders. The room fell silent. Ambassador Choi looked at her as if she had lost her mind. Afraid they have 10,000 ships? Look at the transmission again, Jiwoo insisted. She played the message on the main screen. Listen to the words they use. Disease, primitive species, natural order. They're not talking like conquerors. They're talking like someone trying to convince themselves they're doing the right thing. Dr. Park frowned. Even if you're right, what does that change? They still have the power to destroy us. Maybe, Jiwoo said. But I think there's more going on here than we understand. They claim to have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, bringing peace and stability. What if that's not entirely true? What if other species haven't been as willing to submit as they claim? She brought up star charts showing human expansion over the past 2 centuries. Look at this. We've spread faster than any species should be able to. Our technology has advanced at an incredible rate. Maybe we're not the first species to refuse their offer. Admiral Lee studied the charts. You think there have been others? I think the Dominion isn't as stable as they want us to believe. And I think they know that if word gets out that Earth refused to submit, other species might start getting ideas. The room was quiet as everyone considered her words. Finally, General Shin spoke. So what do you suggest? Jiwoo looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some showed fear, others determination. All of them were waiting for her decision. I suggest we show them what humans do when someone tries to make us kneel, she said firmly. We tell them exactly where they can put their ultimatum. Ambassador Choi shook his head. This is suicide. Maybe, Jiwoo replied. But I'd rather die free than live as a slave. And something tells me we won't be fighting alone for long. Outside the window, the sun set over Geneva. Tomorrow, Earth would give the galaxy its answer. 3 days before Earth's deadline, Dr. Hyun Park stood in a hidden laboratory deep beneath the surface of Mars. The facility had been secret for over a decade, built inside an old mining complex that official records claimed was abandoned. Here, the best human scientists worked on projects that most people didn't even know existed. Show me what we have, Jiwoo Kim said as she walked through the laboratory. She had arrived on Mars 2 hours ago, using a transport that didn't appear on any flight logs. Dr. Park led her to a massive hangar where strange ships sat under bright lights. They looked nothing like traditional human spacecraft. Instead of the boxy, functional designs Earth had always used, these vessels were sleek and curved, with surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. We've been working on these ever since our first encounter with alien technology 12 years ago, Dr. Park explained. When that Dominion scout ship crashed in the Pacific, we recovered more than just wreckage. We found their computer systems, their weapons, even some of their crew. Jiwoo walked around one of the ships, running her hand along its smooth hull. It's beautiful, she said. But does it work? Better than we hoped, said a new voice. Captain Soon Ho Yang stepped out from behind the ship, his flight suit stained with grease and his hair messy from hours of work. I've been testing these for 6 months. They're faster than anything the Dominion showed us, and their weapons systems are unlike anything we've ever built. Dr. Park activated a holographic display that showed the ship's internal systems. The aliens rely heavily on centralized control. Their ships are designed to work together as a single unit, taking orders from command vessels. It makes them very efficient but also predictable. And vulnerable, added engineer Minji Kang, joining the group. She was young, barely 30, but her reputation as a weapons designer was already legendary. I've created something I call quantum disruption charges. They don't destroy enemy ships directly. Instead, they overload their command networks. Jiwoo studied the technical readouts. You're saying you can cut their ships off from their commanders? Exactly, Minji replied with a grin. Imagine a human army where suddenly no one can hear their officers. Chaos. And chaos is something we're very good at. Over the next 2 days, Jiwoo toured secret facilities across the solar system. On Europa, she saw factories producing advanced weapons that combined human innovation with alien technology. In the asteroid belt, she visited mining stations that had been converted into shipyards, building a fleet that would surprise the galaxy. But the most impressive sight was on Luna, where General Taehyung Shin showed her humanity's new ground forces. The soldiers wore armor that looked almost organic, flowing, and adaptive. Their weapons could change form depending on the situation, shifting from rifles to cannons to energy blades as needed. How many of these soldiers do we have? Jiwoo asked. 50,000 fully equipped and trained, General Shin replied. But that's not the real strength. We've also trained civilian militias on every human world. If the Dominion wants to occupy our planets, they're going to find that every farmer, every teacher, every shopkeeper is ready to fight. Jiwoo nodded approvingly. This was the human way. Not massive armies following orders from above, but countless individuals making their own decisions, adapting and improvising as the situation changed. On the final day before the deadline, Earth's leaders gathered in the command center. Ambassador Choi made one last plea for surrender, but he was voted down. The decision was unanimous. Earth would reject the ultimatum. Jiwoo stood before the communication array that would broadcast her message across the galaxy. She had spent hours writing and rewriting her speech, but in the end she decided that simple words were best. Attention. Galactic Dominion Alliance, she began, her voice carried by quantum transmitters to every corner of known space. This is Commander Jiwoo Kim, speaking for the people of Earth and all human colonies. She paused, knowing that this moment would echo through history. You have offered us slavery in exchange for security. You have demanded that we abandon our freedom for the promise of peace under your rule. Our answer is simple. No. The transmission showed not just Jiwoo but scenes from across human space. Ships launching from hidden bases, soldiers preparing for battle, civilians volunteering to defend their homes. The galaxy was seeing humanity as it truly was, not the primitive species the Dominion claimed to be protecting. We reject your ultimatum, Jiwoo continued. Humanity bows to no one. We will not surrender our weapons. We will not open our worlds to your occupation, and we will not accept servitude as the price of survival. If you want our planets, if you want our freedom, then come and take them. But know this, we will fight you with everything we have, and we will never stop fighting. The transmission cut to Captain Yang in the cockpit of one of the new fighters. I'm ready, he said simply, then to Engineer Kang in her weapons lab. My disruption charges are loaded and waiting. To General Shin with his armored soldiers. We've never lost a war we believed in. Finally, back to Jiwoo. To any species watching this broadcast, know that you have a choice. The Dominion tells you that submission is natural, that serving stronger masters is the way of the galaxy. We say that's a lie. Every being has the right to choose their own path, to fight for their own freedom, to say no to those who would rule them. She looked directly into the camera, her eyes blazing with determination. We are humanity and we choose to stand. Join us and stand as well. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings had heard Earth's defiant response. On Dominion worlds, conversations that had been whispered in secret for generations suddenly became open discussions. On colony planets, species that had forgotten the meaning of resistance began to remember. High Commander Vorthak received the transmission aboard his flagship. His golden eyes narrowed as he watched the human commander's words. Around him, his advisors shifted nervously. They have sealed their fate, Vorthak said, but his voice lacked confidence. He had ruled for centuries, and no species had ever defied the Dominion so openly. More worrying, no species had ever broadcast their defiance across the galaxy. Should we attack immediately? Asked one of his subordinates. Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. No, he said finally. We proceed as planned. The full fleet will advance on Earth in 3 days. We will crush them so thoroughly that no other species will ever dare to follow their example. But as he spoke, reports were coming in from across Dominion space. On 17 different worlds there had been riots. On 30 more, local governors reported increased resistance activity. The humans' message was spreading like wildfire through populations that had lived in quiet submission for generations. Back on Earth, Jiwoo watched the alien fleet begin its approach. 10,000 ships moving toward humanity's home system, each one more powerful than anything humans had ever built. By all logic, this should be the end of their species. Instead, she felt oddly calm. For the first time in galactic history, someone had said no to the Dominion and meant it. Whatever happened next, that moment of defiance could never be taken back. Admiral Lee, she said, deploy the fleet. Let's show them what humans can do. The first battle didn't happen at Earth. It began 3 weeks later at New Sol, a mining world on the edge of human space. The planet was home to 2 million colonists who worked the rich mineral deposits beneath its surface. According to Dominion intelligence, it should have been an easy conquest. Captain Sunho Yang crouched behind a twisted piece of metal that had once been part of a mining platform. Around him, the surface of New Sol looked like a wasteland. Every building appeared abandoned, every street empty. The colonists had seemingly fled without a fight, but appearances could be deceiving. "Ghost Leader, this is Control," came the voice in his earpiece. It belonged to Engineer Minji Kang, speaking from a hidden bunker deep underground. "Enemy fleet is in position. 18 heavy cruisers, 47 destroyers, and 2 command ships." Yang smiled grimly. The Dominion had sent enough firepower to destroy a small star system, all to capture one mining world. They were taking no chances after Earth's defiant broadcast. "Copy that, Control," he whispered. "Ghost Squadron is ready." Above the planet, the Dominion fleet moved into attack formation. Their ships gleamed in the light of New Sol's star, beautiful and deadly. Admiral Crexton, a veteran of 100 conquests, stood on the bridge of his flagship and studied the empty world below. "No defenses?" he asked his tactical officer. "None visible, sir. No ships, no orbital platforms, no surface weapons. The humans appear to have abandoned the planet." Crexton frowned. This was too easy. In his experience, species that broadcast defiance across the galaxy didn't simply abandon their worlds without a fight. "Run full scans," he ordered. "Check for hidden installations." The scans showed nothing unusual. Underground mining tunnels, as expected from a mining world. Abandoned industrial equipment scattered across the surface. No signs of military presence. Perhaps their defiance was merely words, suggested the tactical officer. Crexton nodded slowly. "Begin landing operations. Secure the main industrial sites. If the humans want to gift us a mining world, we'll accept it." The first wave of Dominion shuttles descended toward New Sol's surface. Each one carried 50 soldiers, the best warriors the galaxy had to offer. They landed at the primary mining facility, a complex of towers and processing plants that stretched for kilometers. As the alien soldiers spread out through the empty facility, Yang received the signal he had been waiting for. "All Ghost units, this is Ghost Leader. The trap is set. Execute Storm Protocol." Across New Sol, what had appeared to be abandoned equipment suddenly came to life. Mining lasers designed to cut through solid rock swiveled toward the Dominion shuttles. Ore processing plants that seemed empty revealed hidden weapon emplacements. The entire industrial complex had been converted into a massive fortress, but one that looked harmless from orbit. The first Dominion soldier to realize what was happening was a reptilian warrior named Vexcar. He was examining what appeared to be a broken conveyor belt when he noticed that the belt was humming with energy. His enhanced hearing caught the sound of machinery starting up throughout the facility. "Ambush," he shouted into his communicator. But his words were cut off as the conveyor belt exploded into motion, launching chunks of processed ore like missiles. All across the mining complex, the battle erupted simultaneously. What the Dominion had assumed were empty buildings revealed themselves as camouflaged bunkers. Humans in powered armor emerged from maintenance shafts and storage areas, their weapons already firing. But these weren't the primitive projectile weapons the aliens expected. These were quantum disruptors designed by Minji Kang to overload alien shield systems. In orbit, Admiral Crexton watched in shock as his landing force came under attack. "Where did they come from?" he demanded. "The scans showed no military presence." His tactical officer was frantically trying to make sense of the data. "Sir, the entire industrial complex appears to have been a deception. The humans have turned their mining equipment into weapons." Yang led his squadron in a charge against a group of Dominion soldiers who had taken cover behind what they thought was a disabled mining truck. The vehicle suddenly roared to life, its massive drilling arms sweeping toward the aliens like giant metal claws. "Welcome to New Sol," Yang shouted as he fired his disruptor rifle. The energy beam struck a Dominion warrior's shield, causing it to flicker and fail. A second shot from another human soldier finished the alien off, but the real surprise was still to come. General Tai Hyung-shin had spent months preparing for this moment. As the battle raged on the surface, he was deep underground in the planet's control center, watching displays that showed the Dominion fleet's position. "Minji," he called to the engineer, "is the gravity generator ready?" Minji's hands flew over the control console. New Sol's mining operations had required massive gravity manipulation equipment to extract ore from the planet's core. Over the past month, human engineers had modified this system for a very different purpose. "Gravity generator is online, General. Just say when." Shin watched as more Dominion ships moved into low orbit to support their ground forces. The aliens were clustering together, using their superior numbers to overwhelm human positions. It was exactly what he had hoped they would do. Now, he said. Deep beneath New Sol's surface, machines that had once moved mountains of rock now reached out to grasp something much larger. The planet's modified gravity generator created a massive gravitational anomaly directly above the main mining site. In orbit, Admiral Krexthon felt his ship lurch suddenly to one side. Warning alarms screamed across the bridge as his navigation officer fought to maintain control. "What's happening?" Krexthon demanded. "Massive gravitational distortion, sir. It's pulling us toward the planet." The Dominion fleet, which had been in perfect formation just moments before, was now being dragged into a chaotic spiral. Ships that tried to break free found their engines weren't powerful enough to escape the artificial gravity well. Those that didn't react fast enough were pulled into collisions with other vessels. Yang watched from the surface as alien ships crashed into each other in the sky above. It was like watching a carefully choreographed dance turn into chaos. "Now that's what I call mining," he said with satisfaction. But the humans weren't finished. As the Dominion fleet struggled with the gravity well, seemingly empty asteroids throughout the outer system suddenly came alive. These weren't asteroids at all, but camouflaged human ships, their surfaces covered with rock and ice to fool enemy sensors. Captain Minho Park, commander of the stealth ship Hidden Strike, grinned as he brought his weapons online. His ship had been drifting in the asteroid field for 2 weeks, waiting for this moment. Around him, dozens of other disguised vessels did the same. "This is Phantom Fleet," he announced. "All units engage at will." The Hidden Strike dropped its asteroid camouflage, revealing a sleek warship bristling with quantum disruptors and missile launchers. It dove toward the confused Dominion fleet like a predator striking wounded prey. Admiral Krexthon watched in horror as his forces came under attack from every direction. Ships he had been certain were empty space debris were firing on his fleet. The humans had turned the entire star system into a trap. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender demands from the planet." Surrender demands? Krexthon could barely believe what he was hearing. From them? Yang's voice came over the communication channel, calm and confident. "Dominion Fleet, this is Captain Yang of the New Sol Defense Force. You are surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will continue our attack." For the first time in his long career, Admiral Krexthon was forced to make a decision he had never imagined possible. His fleet was trapped, his ground forces were being systematically destroyed, and more human ships were appearing from hiding places throughout the system. "All ships," he said quietly, "stand down. Prepare for surrender protocols." The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The Dominion, which had never lost a battle in 10,000 years, had been defeated by humans. Not through superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but through tactics no one had seen before. On worlds throughout Dominion space, beings who had lived their entire lives in submission began to ask dangerous questions. If humans could defeat the Empire's fleet, what else might be possible? Yang stood on New Sol's surface, watching as Dominion soldiers laid down their weapons. The battle was over, but something told him the war was just beginning. "This is just the start," he said into his communicator. "Let's see how the galaxy reacts to this." The defeat at New Sol sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For 10,000 years, the Dominion had been unbeatable. Now, in the space of a single battle, that myth had been shattered. On the crystal world of Kethvar, home to the Kethler people, the news arrived during their daily work cycle. The Kethler were beings of living crystal, their bodies gleaming like diamonds as they labored in the vast mining operations that fed the Dominion's war machine. For centuries, they had accepted their role as servants without question. Belthar was polishing crystal formations when the underground broadcast began. Such transmissions were illegal, of course, but the Dominion couldn't monitor every communication in a galaxy of billions of worlds. "Brothers and sisters," came the whispered voice, "the impossible has happened. The humans have defeated a Dominion fleet." Around Velthar, other Kethlar stopped their work. Some looked fearful, others curious. All of them were listening. The species called humans refused to submit. They fought back, and they won. Lieutenant Heron Yoon had been working for weeks to establish these secret communication networks. As humanity's first galactic diplomat, she had a job that hadn't existed before, spreading the word that resistance was possible. She spoke from a hidden base on the edge of Dominion space, her words carried by quantum transmitters to dozens of worlds. People of the galaxy, she said, you have lived under Dominion rule so long that you've forgotten what freedom means. But freedom isn't something that's given to you. It's something you take. On the aquatic world of Multhyra, the fish-like Multi people gathered in underwater cities to hear these broadcasts. They had served as the Dominion's engineers for millennia, building the ships and weapons used to conquer other worlds. But now, for the first time, some of them began to wonder why they were helping their masters forge chains for others. Dr. Jihoon Bae had been studying these alien species from captured Dominion databases. What he discovered explained everything about humanity's unique position in galactic history. Every other species was contacted early in their development, he explained to the Earth Command staff. The Dominion would arrive when a species was just beginning to explore space, offering protection and guidance. Most accepted willingly, becoming junior partners in the Empire. Jiwoo Kim studied the data on her screen. And those that refused? Were conquered while they were still weak, Dr. Bae replied. The Dominion has a simple strategy. Get them young before they develop their own strong military traditions. But humanity developed alone, Admiral Suman Lee observed. Exactly. We had 200 years to spread across the stars before they found us. By then we were too strong and too scattered to easily conquer. More importantly, we developed our own way of thinking about war and freedom. This was the secret that terrified the Dominion leadership. Humanity represented something they had never encountered. A fully mature spacefaring civilization that had never accepted the idea that someone else should rule them. Commander Yoonji Nam was putting this knowledge to use. She led the newly formed Liberation Fleet, a mix of human ships and vessels captured from the Dominion. But her mission wasn't conquest, it was inspiration. The Liberation Fleet's first target was the mining world of Torvek, home to the insectoid Torvani people. For 800 years, the Torvani had extracted rare metals from their planet's core, sending every gram to Dominion worlds while living in poverty themselves. Commander Nam's ships appeared in the Torvek system not as conquerors, but as liberators. Her first action was to disable the Dominion garrison without destroying it, using the same quantum disruptor technology that had proven so effective at New Sol. Then she did something unprecedented. She asked the Torvani what they wanted. We offer you a choice, her broadcast said. Continue serving masters who take everything and give nothing back, or stand up and claim what is rightfully yours. We won't rule you. We won't take your resources. We simply offer you the chance to rule yourselves. The response was electric. Within hours, Torvani workers had seized control of their mining operations. The planet's Dominion administrators found themselves locked in their compounds while an entire world celebrated its freedom. But the real change was happening on worlds that humans had never visited. The idea of resistance was spreading like wildfire through populations that had forgotten such thoughts were possible. On the industrial world of Zarketh, factory workers began organizing strikes. On the agricultural planet of Ventara, farmers started keeping their crops for themselves instead of shipping them to Dominion worlds. Small acts of defiance, but each one showed that the Empire's control was slipping. High Commander Vorthak watched these reports with growing alarm from his flagship. He had expected humanity's defiance to be quickly crushed, serving as an example to other species. Instead, their victory was inspiring rebellion throughout his empire. Status report, he demanded from his intelligence chief. Unrest on 47 worlds, sir. Open rebellion on 12. The humans have established communication networks we cannot fully track or shut down. Vorthak's golden eyes narrowed. And their fleet? Growing, sir. They've captured or converted over 200 of our ships. More concerning, they're being joined by vessels from liberated worlds. This was Vorthak's nightmare scenario. The Dominion's strength came from unity, from the belief that their rule was natural and inevitable. If that belief cracked, the entire empire could crumble. Prepare the Grand Fleet, he ordered. Every ship, every soldier. We end this at Earth. But even as he spoke, Vorthak knew that Earth was no longer the real battleground. The true battle was for the hearts and minds of billions of beings across the galaxy. Lieutenant Yoon continued her broadcast from hidden locations throughout Dominion space. You are not alone, she told oppressed populations. Across the galaxy, people are standing up. The Kethalar have taken control of their crystal mines. The Multhi have stopped building ships for their masters. The Torvani sing songs of freedom for the first time in 8 centuries. Dr. Bae had made another discovery that changed everything. The Dominion isn't just losing ships, he reported. They're losing the will to fight. Our psychological analysis suggests that many Dominion soldiers are questioning their orders for the first time. This was humanity's greatest weapon, not better technology or superior tactics, but the simple idea that servitude wasn't natural or inevitable. Every being in the galaxy, no matter how different from humans, shared the same basic desire to control their own destiny. Captain Yang, now leading a mixed squadron of human and alien pilots, saw this firsthand during a mission to the border world of Kexlan. His wing included Velthar, the former crystal miner who had joined the Resistance, and Gulthira, a multi-engineer who had abandoned her post to fight for freedom. Strange, Velthar commented as they approached the planet, his crystalline voice ringing through the communication system. 6 months ago I could not imagine defying the Dominion. Now I cannot imagine serving them. That's the difference between slavery and freedom, Yang replied. Slavery is what others choose for you. Freedom is what you choose for yourself. As reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy, one thing became clear. The Dominion was facing something it had never encountered in 10,000 years of rule. Not just a military rebellion, but an ideological revolution. The empire that had conquered the galaxy through superior force was discovering that ideas could be more powerful than weapons. And the idea that every being had the right to choose their own path was spreading faster than any fleet could travel. On Earth, Commander Kim prepared for the final battle. The Dominion was gathering its full might for one last attempt to crush humanity and restore order to their crumbling empire. Over 15,000 ships were approaching the solar system, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. But as she studied the tactical displays, Kim smiled. The numbers didn't tell the whole story. Half the galaxy was in open rebellion, and more worlds were joining the Resistance every day. Whatever happened at Earth, the Dominion had already lost the thing that mattered most, the unquestioned obedience of their subjects. The galaxy was awakening from 10,000 years of sleep, and nothing would ever be the same. The final battle began at dawn over Earth's Pacific Ocean. The Dominion had brought 15,000 ships, the largest fleet in galactic history. But as High Commander Vorthak studied the tactical displays from his flagship's bridge, he realized that numbers alone might not be enough. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving distress calls from 17 different systems. Rebellions have broken out on Veltara, Morketh, and the entire Spiral Arm colonies. Vorthak's scaled hands clenched into fists. He had gathered every available ship for this final assault, leaving only skeleton crews to guard the most important Dominion worlds. The humans had somehow coordinated uprisings to coincide with his attack on Earth. Ignore the other systems, he ordered. Once we destroy Earth, the rebellions will collapse. But even as he spoke, Vorthak wasn't certain this was true. The idea of resistance had spread too far, taken root too deeply. Still, destroying humanity remained his best hope of restoring order to his crumbling empire. Admiral Sumin Lee watched the approaching fleet from the bridge of the Earth flagship Defiance. Around her, Earth's solar defense fleet looked pitifully small compared to the alien armada, 3,000 human ships against 15,000 Dominion vessels. But appearances, as humanity had learned, could be deceiving. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, quantum signatures detected throughout the outer system. The Liberation Fleet is in position, Lee smiled. Commander Yunji Nam had spent weeks positioning ships throughout the solar system, hidden among asteroids and debris fields. These weren't just human vessels, but ships from dozens of worlds that had joined the rebellion. Former Dominion cruisers now flew alongside converted mining barges and improvised fighters built by species who had rediscovered their desire for freedom. The battle began when Captain Sun Ho Yang led the first wave of human fighters against the Dominion's advance guard. His squadron had grown from a handful of experimental ships to over 500 fighters, many piloted by aliens who had abandoned their posts to fight for liberty. All units, this is Ghost Leader, Yang announced. Remember, we're not trying to win through superior firepower. We win by being unpredictable. His fighters scattered in all directions, each one following tactics that would have seemed chaotic to Dominion commanders, but made perfect sense to beings who had learned to think for themselves. Some dove toward the planet's surface, using Earth's atmosphere to mask their approach. Others accelerated straight up, attacking the Dominion fleet from above and below simultaneously. The alien ships tried to respond with their traditional coordinated formations, but engineer Minji Kang's quantum disruptors were wreaking havoc on their command networks. Ships that expected orders from their flagships found themselves cut off, forced to make individual decisions for the first time in their existence. "This is incredible," reported Velthar, the former Kethlar slave who now flew alongside Yang's squadron. "Their pilots don't know how to fight without orders." Yang grinned as he watched a group of Dominion fighters mill around in confusion after losing contact with their controller. That's the difference between servants and warriors. Servants wait for orders. Warriors make choices. But the real surprise came when the battle reached Earth's inner system. General Taehyung Shin had spent months preparing the planet's defenses, and what he had created was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first Dominion ships to approach Earth found themselves flying through what appeared to be empty space. Then the planet's hidden defense grid activated. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as space debris opened fire. Orbital factories that seemed abandoned revealed themselves as massive gun emplacements. But the most shocking moment came when Earth's moon split open like a flower, revealing the largest weapon humanity had ever built. Dr. Hyun Park had spent 2 years converting the lunar interior into a single massive quantum cannon, powered by fusion reactors buried in the moon's core. "Lunar command to all friendly units," came Park's voice over the communication network. "Clear the firing solution. Main gun is ready." The quantum cannon fired once, sending a beam of pure energy that struck the Dominion flagship directly. Vorthak's massive vessel, which had seemed invincible, simply disintegrated under the assault. But even more important than the destruction of the flagship was what happened next. Instead of continuing to fight, many Dominion ships simply stopped. Their crews, who had served the Empire out of fear rather than loyalty, saw their supreme commander destroyed and made a choice that would have been unthinkable months earlier. They surrendered. "This is Captain Zexmore." Of the Dominion cruiser Eternal Victory came a transmission that shocked both sides. "We lay down our arms. We will fight no more for an empire that treats thinking beings as property." Across the battlefield, other Dominion ships followed suit. Not all of them. Many continued to fight with desperate fury, but enough to turn the tide of battle decisively in humanity's favor. Lieutenant Heron Yoon, monitoring communications from her command post on Mars, realized what was happening. "It's not just a military defeat," she reported to Commander Kim. "It's an ideological collapse. The Dominion forces are joining the rebellion." The battle raged for 6 more hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. By the time Earth's sun set over the Pacific, the largest fleet in galactic history had been destroyed, captured, or converted to the cause of freedom. Commander Jiwoo Kim stood in the ruins of what had been the Dominion flagship's bridge. High Commander Vorthak lay dead among the wreckage, killed when his ship's quantum shields failed. Around her, human and alien soldiers worked together to secure the vessel. "Commander," Admiral Lee's voice came through her communicator, "we're receiving surrender offers from Dominion forces throughout the galaxy. It seems word of the battle has spread faster than we expected." Kim nodded. She had expected this. The Dominion's power had always been based on the belief that resistance was impossible. Once that belief shattered, the entire empire would collapse like a house of cards. Over the next several days, reports poured in from across the galaxy. On world after world, Dominion garrisons were laying down their weapons or joining local populations in declaring independence. The vast bureaucracy that had administered the empire for millennia was simply dissolving as its members chose freedom over servitude. 6 months later, Commander Kim stood before the first assembly of the Free Worlds Coalition. Representatives from over 200 species filled the Great Hall, each one wearing the symbols of their newly independent worlds. Some were former Dominion colonies that had declared independence. Others were species that had never been conquered but had lived in fear of the Empire's expansion. "Today marks the beginning of a new age," Kim announced to the assembly. "Not an age of human dominance, but an age of choice. Every world, every species, every individual being has the right to decide their own destiny." The coalition's charter was simple. Member worlds would trade freely with each other, defend each other against aggression, and respect each other's right to self-determination. There would be no supreme commander, no central authority imposing its will on others. Decisions would be made by consensus, with each world having an equal voice regardless of its size or military strength. Dr. Park, now serving as the Coalition's chief scientist, worked alongside former Dominion researchers to develop new technologies. But instead of weapons of conquest, they focused on tools that would help newly free worlds defend themselves and prosper. Engineer Kang led a program to share quantum disruptor technology with any world that wanted it, ensuring that no future empire could use centralized command systems to dominate others. The best defense against tyranny, she said, is making sure everyone knows how to break a tyrant's tools. Captain Yang established the Free Space Academy, where pilots from dozens of different species learned to fly together. His first graduating class included humans, Kethlar, Molthy, Torvani, and even former Dominion soldiers who had chosen freedom over their old allegiances. The remnants of the Dominion still existed, but as just one more member of the galactic community rather than its ruler. Many former Dominion worlds joined the Coalition willingly, their populations eager to experience the freedom their ancestors had never known. Not everyone was happy with the new order. Some species preferred the security of having others make decisions for them. A few tried to establish their own small empires, only to discover that quantum disruptors and the Coalition's mutual defense agreements made conquest much more difficult than it used to be. But for the vast majority of the galaxy's inhabitants, the end of the Dominion meant the beginning of possibilities they had never imagined. Trade flourished between worlds that had never been allowed to communicate directly. Art, literature, and music from hundreds of different cultures spread throughout the galaxy. Most importantly, beings who had spent their lives following orders began learning to make choices. Commander Kim, now serving as Earth's representative to the Coalition, often thought about the moment when High Commander Vorthak had first appeared on her screen with his ultimatum. He had demanded that humanity submit to what he called the natural order of the galaxy,